everybody. Welcome to Andorks, the podcast where every week we'll analyze and scrutinize the Star Wars series Andor 7 minutes at a time. My name's Alex Wallenutz.
And I'm Rusteen Honardoost.
And we have friends everywhere. And today we are joined by our friend, writer of Justice League and Young Justice, game designer of Star Trek Resurgence, and performer Jon Callan. Thanks for having her, Jon.
Oh, absolute pleasure.
Welcome to the pod. Jon, tell us, what's your history with Star Wars and how did you find Andor in your life?
Oh, yeah. So we were just talking about it a bit on mic. I mean, I would never, not watch something like Andor because I'm a science fiction nut and we're all television people. We work in Hollywood. But the thing about Andor is I went in very skeptical because I'm not a Star Wars guy. I'm a Star Trek guy.
Okay.
It's not like I didn't go through a Star Wars period. I was 14 at one time in my life. Of course, I love it. It's full of weird little alien dudes and stuff. But there was a moment in my life where I feel like I thought I had grown up. I was oh, the world's full of more complexity and it's not just evil versus good, right? Your enemy comes from a different cultural perspective than you, has a different way of looking at things. Star Trek, or a lot of Star Trek, was always very good at that. So I always kind of jokingly had a rivalry with Star Wars, looked down on it when I was a kid, or up until well into adulthood.
So your view is that a Star Wars guy is immature? Is that your...
I mean, that's the joking position I take. Obviously I don't think that's true, but I think it's why I was drawn to one franchise. And let's be honest, the original trilogy, it's beautiful filmmaking. Literally intended for kids. That's what Lucas would say to you.
Star Wars is a franchise that's built around emotions, and Star Trek is a franchise built around ideas, is kind of the way I always distinguish the two of them.
I think that's very true, though. Being television, Star Trek is also this container for stories, and what story you're telling often...
It's a workplace drama.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on the week. It's sometimes it's a workplace drama, sometimes it's a love story, sometimes it's a mystery, political, spy thriller, whatever.
But I think from a writer's perspective, Star Trek is primarily a TV show engine where conflict is resolved interpersonally.
Yes.
Versus Star Wars they are responding to massive external crises that are... Someone's always said, a TV show is a story you tell every night at dinner. A movie is a story you tell about once in your lifetime.
I mean, I would say that's the other thing,
That's
right?
Star Trek versus Star Wars, yeah.
We all know each other from Hollywood. One of the things I have done in my life is television. I have always loved television. I consider myself a TV writer. So, on a very fundamental level, Star Wars is movies, Star Trek is TV. But the other place we all know each other from, and the reason I think you guys, this podcast is very exciting, we know each other from leftist organizing circles, leftism in general. And that's got a connection to my Star Trek fandom because Star Trek feels like the thing that you're aiming for, right? In the future, there's no money, it's post-scarcity, people take care of each other. But this was the show that when people are well, you got to watch Andor, it really threw me for a loop because I was oh, do I like Star Wars more than I like Star Trek? Because this is a show that in many ways is about where we are now and how you get to that idealized place. And it just felt so relevant and fresh from the moment I turned it on. And, it just sucks that it costs $500 million and the sanity of every person involved to make, because I want so much more of it.
Yeah.
Or market forces allowing it to happen.
Yeah. Was a 15-minute window where you were able to get a show like this to get this much money.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, this is it's the perfect Marxist show, not only because of what it's about, but because it took material preconditions reaching this point for you to have this small window where you could do it.
And there's no big name you're selling this on. The new Ryan Gosling Star Wars movie is being sold off it's Ryan Gosling in Star Wars. There's no big...
And not Mikey Madison, sorry.
No, it's Mikey Madison.
No, she turned it down.
Oh, okay.
It's Mia Goth.
Okay.
So what we're saying is Andor is a refutation of the great men of history theory.
Mm-hmm. It is, in a way.
Yeah. It's a societal forces television show.
It turns the great man of history take on Star Wars, which is Luke Skywalker is our great man.
That's actually
true. And actually, he is just one part of a relay race of history that managed to topple the dominoes of the empire.
Damn, I was joking, but we took it back around to something real.
I probably have quoted this in a different episode, but there's the quote from the Karl Marx quote from, was it the 18th Brumaire of Louis Bonaparte, which is, men make their own history, but they do not make it as they please. They do not make it under self-selected circumstances, but under circumstances already existing. Thanks, ad, for popping up as I was reading that. But under circumstances existing already, given and transmitted from the past, the tradition of all dead generations weigh like the nightmare of the reigns of the living. So yeah, they are making history, but they are not independently making it. It's all dictated from what's come before them and what goes forward.
Guys, I have to tell you, this is why I love this show. Like, it's such an amazing high concept to be like, look, you get the screenwriting and you get the praxis, and they come together. You're the only two people that I would want to hear analyze Andor in this kind of detail.
You. And dumb alien bullshit, which is why
I was very excited to see there were no aliens in this clip, so I'm not going to have to name any aliens with you guys.
But there is one more question, which we've introduced as a honorary question since Mark Maron retired, which is who are your glove shittos?
So is this...
Who's a tertiary character that if they pop up on screen, you're excited to see them?
You're doing a soy face.
Forlom and fucking Zuckuss, man. Forlom and Zuckuss.
I don't know who these guys are.
Okay, so there are 5 bounty hunters in the Empire Strikes Back bounty hunter scene.
Yes.
They are Bossk, Dengar, Boba Fett. By the way, you see I was like shitting on Star Wars and I'm immediately going like deep Star Wars.
Yes.
Blowing out the mics for Forlom.
I am a hypocrite in the extreme. Bossk, Dengar, Boba Fett, IG-88, and then my 2 little forgotten boys, Forlom and Zuckuss. They have a short story in the EU Tales of the Bounty Hunters novel that came out like in the 90s. And the coolest thing about Forlom and Zuckuss is they're dynamic. One is an android who is fascinated by the Force and wants to understand it. And the other is a Force-sensitive telepath for whom the Force means nothing because just like his race is just like Force-sensitive naturally. So the android's like, man, I gotta hang back around you if I'm gonna ever learn to use the Force, which I never can because I'm an android. And I have not read that book since I was 13, so if any of that is wrong, do not come at me.
According to Wikipedia, you're right. So your childhood memories are intact.
I just remember thinking they were so cool.
They look great. Forlom is really cool. They're both very like bug shaped. I guess he's like a droid made to look like these. What are they called? The GAN.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I wouldn't know.
Apparently, in the original script, Zuckuss's first original name was Tuckus, which feels like Tuckus. I feel like
we got a new way to come up with names, Alex.
Me just pulling Yiddish phrases out. Yeah.
George Lucas was just like writing the script while looking at his secretary's ass.
Well, I mean, episode 5 is Kirshner, right? So that's a Jew in there. He might be doing Tuckus in there.
Well, it would be Irvin Kershner. Yes, the screenwriter. Yeah,
I believe it.
Him and Lawrence Kasdan threw in some Jewy stuff in there.
That's the name I was trying to think of. Kasdan. Yes, he was the screenwriter. Kershner was the director.
Kershner was the director. Kasdan, and then there's Leigh Beckett was the second writer.
Are we ready to dive into this episode?
I am so ready. I requested Mon Mothma with you guys because I feel like I have so many Mon Mothma takes. I just can't wait.
Yeah, and you only had to wait 19 episodes for us to finally get to talk about it.
Yeah, we had some Mon last week, but it was not substantial Mon. I think we're gonna get some real Mon.
Because last week we saw Mon's outer facade, and then today we're going to get to lower the veil and see who the real Mon Mothma is.
Now, have you guys given context for Mon, sort of like who she was before this in the EU and also in the mind of Star Wars fans?
We gave more context of Genevieve O'Reilly and how she came to the show, but we haven't dove deep into Mon's backstory. So if that's something you want to clue our readers into, or listeners into.
Everyone's reading an AI transcripts of it. It's also just like, we're going to sound like we're doing just like a bad Jamaican bit the more we say Mon. Okay, so should we hop into Luthen's Galactic Antiquities and Objects of Interest?
Mm-hmm.
So previously on Andor, Mon stopped by Luthen's shop to buy a present for her husband. We'll put quotes on buy a present. As they continue their conversation from last week, Luthen tells Mon that he has a new delivery that might interest her, but needs to go to the back room to show it to her, which is just obviously taking them out of view. And Clea stops Exmar from joining Mon. The second they're out of sight, again, fucking every week, it's just how good is Stellan Skarsgård. But just like the second he's out of sight, just the mask drops immediately. He goes from just like jovial to just miserable in a second.
And he's able to carry that voice and project it so that way he can still hear them. Like, yeah, they're surely talking about antiquities.
There's some two-headed thing that he wants to talk about. I don't know. Is there a note about that?
No, I don't have any note about that one. That's something they created for the show. But I do want to shout out that last week we asked, are we going to get to see the coins?
Yeah, there's no coins.
No, we do. Oh. You see them very briefly when Clea puts her hand on Exmar's shoulder. And it's like they're 14,000 years old. And we see like a couple little coins there. So I'm sure there's a backstory in the Lucasfilm archives of where those coins are from.
The Gilroys and Wilmon are too good to have a Chekhov's coin. If they mention the coins will show up.
Well, and how interesting is it that Luthen's chosen front is this thing in which he is surrounded by the wreckage of history? You know, it's like Tony is saying to us, oh, he has dad who listens to lots of history podcast physiognomy, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Like he's listening to Revolutions by Mike Duncan, for sure.
Yes. Switching back and forth between that and Dan Carlin.
But no, I think it is, especially because so many of these objects are objects of war.
Yes.
They are military objects, they are suits, they are daggers. These are things that are, like you said, from past conflicts that are surrounding him. And in some ways, you know, I think maybe it's something that Luthen needs to be reminded, which is that one struggle is not going to lead to the promised land. He's surrounded by struggles over thousands of years that have made things better, but it has not solved the core crisis of humanity or
one battle after another, you might say.
Exactly. Last week, he did say how this is a place where time stands still. It's hard being surrounded by so much history and not be humbled by the insignificance of our daily anxieties.
I wrote that down too. Yeah. Just a fucking poet, man.
Mm-hmm. Which is ironic because it's a place in which he is not humbled by his anxiety. It's a place where he's constantly anxious in the back of the room.
It's all a part of the front.
It's all part of the front, yes. This is actually the room where it happens. So yeah, the second they're out of sight, Luthen tells her, if you can't deliver, I need you to know. Luthen knows that she's committed, but he needs money for his axis of resistance. She says the money is there, but it's hard to navigate and get around. She can't pull funds the way she used to. The Empire is watching too closely, but Luthen reminds her that the Empire is watching everybody too closely. John, you sort of talked about your history of Star Wars. Like, what is your sort of understanding of coming to the show of like seeing the Rebel Alliance and the Empire sort of view it in this actual realistic sort of way of framing, as opposed to just like good versus bad, you said, which sometimes can be the cliche of Star Wars. What does seeing this like intricacy mean to you, or how did you sort of take it?
Well, so like I said, like I went through that Star Wars period that I think so many of us go through in middle school. I had the trading cards, I read, extended novels, stuff like that. But I definitely hit a point where I was like, oh, I'm not getting what I need out of this fictional universe anymore. And on returning to Andor, I think it's sort of immediate that you're getting this greater depth, and that it feels like an immediate relief to see these things that already have an aesthetic value for you translated into like their fully formed versions. It's almost like that picture already existed in your mind, and finally someone is laying out Star Wars for you as you imagine it as an adult.
Yeah, if Andor existed as an independent original property that had no connection to anything else, it would not have the same profundity as it would if it didn't exist, because it has that metatextual aspect of it. It has that drawing into your childhood and sort of filling in those gaps that you wish you had. But like if this was just its own thing, it'd be good, but it's the extra context around it that makes it so good.
Yeah, and being a former fan, I think the minute you see Mon here, you enter, with two pieces of important context. One is just what you would have experienced as a fan, which is, no matter whether you got into the EU stuff or not, you know her from Return of the Jedi, right? Mm-hmm. She's the one that shows up and says, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Which I constantly get confused, is not the story of Rogue One.
No. Yes. Because that's A New Hope. Yes. Yeah. No, it's the story of Mon's ex-boyfriend, Manny Bothans, who tragically died getting her the information.
What are Bothans again? Do we know what they look like?
They're like rabbit spies.
Yeah, they're little fuzzy blue guys.
There should be a animated version of Andor that it's just the story with Bothans as like little cute bunny guys. Like when you say little, do you mean like little or just like they are? Oh no,
they're 1.5 meters tall, according to Wikipedia. Although they're not blue, they look more like werewolves.
Yeah.
Than anything.
Oh, werewolves in Andor.
So and then I guess the second piece of context is like, and this is something that that Tony and company had to deal with, is like she has this meaning in the larger extended EU, which I was not familiar with when I first watched the show. I hadn't watched Rebels. I didn't know that like her future is to become, president of the New Republic and all of this stuff. And frankly, after watching the show, I have some issues with that.
Yeah.
But it was, the kind of thing that I think is interesting because they're locked into it on the creative side, but you don't know of it as an audience member. But this lady is, not just the role she serves in this show, she's like the future George Washington of this revolution.
For context, before with the old Republic, they didn't have a president, and they basically invent the role of president.
They had a supreme chancellor.
Yeah, did she become supreme chancellor, or did she become president of the...
I think president.
She is in the future. Where's my Mon Mothma tab? In the future.
In the year 1000 ABY. In the year 1000 ABY.
War to a close.
What if I had a personality instead of just a collection of Conan quotes in my head? Imagine how powerful I could be.
She is chancellor.
Oh, okay.
So they just bring chancellor back, is what they do. So they literally just recreate the Republic. They're like, the status quo was fine.
Yes, we talked about this last week, but like increasingly by accident, the lack of clear ideology of the First Order becomes more and more like materially like correct.
Yeah.
Which is that like we went back to everything that was wrong about the Republic without any clear ideology. So by mirror, our enemies are going to be a fascist recall of the previous thing without any clear ideology, which is sort of where we are right now. We have two political parties that are like imitating themselves but have no clear goal. So we just have like this weird like fake play of like it's like a weird mirror of actual society where
we had one term of Palpatine and we elected Joe Biden and everything's going to be okay now.
Yes.
Palpatine will never come back and be Supreme Chancellor ever again.
Well, and I think this is like a fundamentally sort of Marxist perspective, right? There is these cycles of history, these recurrences, these dialectical nature of going back and forth. And it's like, it's funny because so many leftists see something in the show that feels like, oh, Tony's one of us. It could just as easily be an argument for liberal revolution. It's not like these guys appear to succeed, right? Like Tatooine is a gangster planet before the revolution, and it is a gangster planet after the revolution. So like, no matter how anti-capitalist any of these guys were, they didn't succeed in getting rid of money. We know that for sure.
I think the Gilroys have been pretty open that they, for the show, value neutral against the role of political violence. They're not endorsing it nor condemning it, but I think they do have a fairly liberal viewpoint of history, that it's slow and arching and eventually reaches towards justice, but it's not necessarily something that can be solved or could be structurally solved. Do you think that's...
Yeah, I think that's accurate. Although I think by virtue of pulling from history for their storytelling, they inadvertently end up more to the left than they might be in their own personal life.
I mean, this is the thing about great art and great artists, right? I know people who I know for a fact agree with me politically who produce art that I think is wretch and terrible. And I know arch conservatives that disagree with me terribly, that like, Clint Eastwood made Richard Jewell. I think it's one of the most leftist movies I've ever seen, because he and I are observing the same reality. And if he's chasing truth as he sees it, it's probably going to speak to me too.
Yeah. And something the Gilroys have been really clear about is that like they approach everything from like character first, as opposed to wanting to impose some kind of vision onto the story and then creating characters that like become mouthpieces for that. And so I think a character like Mon Mothma and other parts of the EU becomes just the vessel for exposition about the politics of the current moment. And that's something Genevieve O'Reilly complained about basically with Rogue One, that like she was literally just there for exposition. And I think even as she started doing voices in Rebels, maybe was starting to feel the same thing. And so she almost didn't even want to be a part of Andor at first, because she said, like, I don't want to just keep doing exposition all the time. But Tony was able to convince her that, like, we're going to dive deep into who this character actually is, which maybe inadvertently doesn't always gel with the character that we're later going to see, but works here.
Well, and I think that raises the question that I think was the big question when this first season came out that everyone was talking about in regards to this character, at least in the circles that I travel in, which is Mon Mothma a lib? I mean, she's like, in many ways, she's kind of Warren-coded, right? But in this other way, she's supporting materially this violent revolution. And I think it's at issue how much even she has come to terms with that contradiction at this point.
I mean, I think something that's unique. First, I just remembered. You talked about before. It's like, what if we elected Palpatine as president and then replaced him with Joe Biden?
Yeah.
I think it's more like, what if we elected Jabba the Hutt? Just as evil, but just a lot stupider.
Yeah.
And the same command of English. But I think... No, I'll come back to it.
Yeah, I mean, and I do not mean this dismissively. This is why I love this character. This is why I think she's interesting. Something
we're seeing, I think, that's unique to the second Trump term that I did not notice in the first Trump term is that, like, especially, like, upper middle class, I think especially, like, white women have been, like, radicalized in a way that they were not the first time. I think the first time with Trump, it was like, oh, it's Russia, America is bad. The second time, too, I think you see increasingly, like, Mon Mothma types of, like, okay, the slow process was not working. More needs to be done. And maybe they're not joining DSA, but they're much more amenable to other people doing radical politics.
Well, yeah, and I think the way I would put it, right, is I think Mon Mothma, I almost tripped up there. I think Mon Mothma is a liberal who is actually true to her stated values, which I think, she does not have to be. A lot of people in her position could live much less uncomfortable lives if they just said the things that they say and didn't act on them. But I think that by virtue of actually trying to live her values, she ends up being put on a path of political radicalism much different from where she starts.
I mean, we'll get into it, but I think her home life does not seem that very fun to be hanging out with, to be diverting her attention to anyway. There's not much there for her to... She might be a radical just because she wants something to do and she's bored of the... Yeah.
Well, that's the other question, I think, right?
She's a product of the Republic. Like, as we know in season 2, that, like, she came as, like, a child to Coruscant and was basically, like, child senator. And so I think she's somebody who has internalized what this place is supposed to be and dedicated her life to it. And she's, like, one of the last people there who still believes in, like, what the Republic is capable of and what the Republic owes to its citizens.
No, I think
and that's why she's willing to fight for them.
The modern corollary to Mon Mothma is, what's her name? Jennifer Welch from the I've Had It podcast. Have you seen the clips of her?
Oh, where she's just, like, yelling at Hakeem Jeffries for
like,
being a
like
loser.
interviewing Zoran and being like, oh yeah, you're great. Just a wine mom who is just the most radical politics ever now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, you guys pointed this out. I think it's one of the things that I absolutely love about the show is it is not the Empire that sort of visits this colonial destruction upon Cassian and his tribe, right? It is the Republic, right? Yeah. So even in her belief that this thing used to be good and it's now become corrupted, we know she's at least a little bit wrong.
Yeah, I think we see people, especially in the current movement, go like, well, Biden was bad, so, like, Trump is also bad. And you're like, well, no, there are variations. Like, Biden did a lot of bad things. Trump is inarguably worse. So you can be like, there is I think people sort of go like, oh, it's always been bad, so you don't have to fix anything until until the barricades fall and revolution is upon us. But, like, I think it's fair for her to go like, oh, yes, things were better under the Republic, but I think she doesn't have that thing of like, but the structural issues were always there. The structural issues is what led them to this point.
So I have one more hot Mon Mothma take, but I'll leave it to you guys. Do you want to dive into it? And I can give it to you at the end.
Let's save it for when we come back to her.
Cool.
In a couple of scenes.
Well, we've got, like, a lot. We've still got some more Mon to talk about right here. Let's, like, recap the scene a little bit more.
So she's talking about how she basically can't pull funds the way she used to. Mon talks about how she feels like she's under siege. There's a new spy at the Imperial Senate every day. the preacher's like, every time I go to the bank, there's new people that work there. And I'm like, maybe it's just a shitty bank to work at. Like, I mean, I don't know, like, I'm like, on the list of priorities, if I'm the Empire of like how I want to spy at Mon Mothma, like a clerk at a bank feels like you're not going to get that much.
Well, I wonder if it's like an imperial bank, you know, like maybe the banking system is all subsumed under the Empire after the events of Revenge of the Sith.
They have access to her like financials, but it's you don't need to have spies constantly rotating out to do that.
I think it's more that like she had people that she trusted in the banks who she could say like, I need to move this money, and they're not going to ask questions. Right. It's the way she says
or she's like, just feeling paranoid.
Yes,
you know?
Which
is rational in her case. I think what's interesting in that part is Luthen asks, "Oh, is the new driver Chandrillon, right?" And I don't exactly know what answer he's hoping for, but I think what it may be gesturing to is him sussing out. They're like, oh, that's not necessarily an Imperial spy. It's not necessarily ISB. It might just be her husband spying on her, potentially for the Empire.
Yeah. Because also, if she has her choice of driver, she'll pick a Chandrillon person, probably.
Yeah.
But if it's an Imperial driver, then asking that question is a good way of getting the answer.
And also,
is this someone you could trust?
This will come up in the next scene of like, I think there is a conflict between Mon's Chandrillian heritage and what Chandrilla is currently up to, which are at odds. Yeah.
Which is another great question is, what do we feel like this thing is equivalent to in the Star Wars universe? Is Chandrillon like Vermont? Is it like a small New England state?
That's a good question. I feel like it's
definitely like a place of like power and privilege, I think, but it almost feels like a very old world country. Maybe some kind of mix of like Eastern European and like Saudi Arabia or something is like where my mind first goes.
If a more ornate Connecticut.
It feels powerful.
If Connecticut was thousands of years old.
Yeah, it feels powerful relative to its size, but not necessarily like everyone in it's wealthy. More like it has these wealthy families. So it's like Kennedy vibes, right?
Yeah. There's some Martha Vineyard.
Mon is the daughter of the governor of Chandrilla. So she even is like kind of the Kennedy family of the planet. Yeah. So that's a good comp there.
And she's a redhead.
Was Ted Kennedy a redhead?
No, but JFK was.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Wasn't he?
Isn't he brunette?
I feel like it's like reddish brown.
Sure.
Am I colorblind? I don't know. Let's find out. Google AI. Was JFK a redhead? Let's see what it says. Okay, it says more brownish blonde or light brown. I guess in my head it's a little bit more red. That's fine. I'll retract that.
It's because she's an alien.
Oh, fucking, what's his name? The young one who just ran for Congress is the redhead. That's what I'm thinking of. The one who ran against Ed Markey.
And lost. Yeah. He's disappeared. He doesn't exist anymore. Is he even around?
Oh.
What's his name?
Joe Kennedy.
Joe Kennedy.
Oh, yes, you're right. Yeah.
I have literally not heard that name.
I mean, dude, if I was a Kennedy and I lost an election, I'd be like, well, back to my money and women.
Yeah, he's literally a former House rep, so he's not even a rep anymore. That's hilarious. Good riddance. He was a CNN commentator in 2021. Good for him. He was appointed by Biden to the President's Commission of White House Fellowships. So he was like
I'm falling asleep
in
while
charge
you're
of
saying
the
this.
interns.
I'm falling asleep while you're saying this.
This is what makes your podcast special. I'm telling you, anyone can just do an Andor podcast. You guys have a viewpoint.
Vel could have been in charge of like internships on Chandrilla and instead is leading the bank robbery on Aldhani. Maybe that's where Ted Kennedy is right now. Or Joe Kennedy is now.
Yes.
That's true.
Maybe that's why we haven't heard of him.
She's like an upper class burnout, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what she is.
These are class traitors, is what they are. Yes. And that's something Tony has talked about of like, your revolution does need some class traitors who will provide you with funds, provide you with insight into like the workings of the upper class and will get you access to them.
I'm just obsessed now with the concept of Star Wars Ted Kennedy.
He drove that two-person transport into a black hole. Escaped in the one EVA suit.
They didn't call the rebels
for hours. For hours.
You didn't call the Jedi for hours after that crash.
Back to the episode. Where was I? They're all new people, including at the bank. Yeah, like you said, Luthen points out that she has a new driver, which is something that Clay immediately picked up on. Of this is probably potentially a new spy. We have to sort of see who we know and who we trust. Luthen is sort of clearly we've sort of seen him sell Cassian, like, I'm the master of this. It's all part of the plan. He's now being more upfront that, like, they're running out of money. They're struggling. Mon says that she's found somebody who can help, but Luthen is very hesitant to bring somebody into the circle. As he says, they're vulnerable enough. Meanwhile, Mon reminds him nobody's at more risk than she is.
There's a funny part here where Luthen says, I can only forage for so long. And we know that he's planning the Aldhani heist, but Mon Mothma doesn't.
Yeah.
And so he's somebody who's so careful about what he says and how he says it that he's saying this so that way later when she finds out about the heist, he can say, like, well, I told you I was going to do something.
Yeah.
So he's always
I warned
like,
you.
He never outright lies to anybody, but he knows how to use the truth and when to say something truthful and when to not say something. And I think that's just, like, great writing.
And Mon probably wouldn't want to know.
Yeah, it's not, there's no reason for her to know.
I mean, she's
not
very
involved.
much a character in denial at this point. And I think it's an interesting question of, like, have Luthen and her sister been even really upfront about what this is, right? Like, have they prepped her for the idea of, like, listen, so you know we're going to kill people, right? Or does she still think she's funding some extra legal but non-lethal version of a resistance?
It's the latter.
There will be deaths, but they will all be accidental.
Yeah.
They will be Looney Tunes-esque deaths that nobody is responsible for. Yeah.
We will only ever fight as a response to violence.
Yes.
Is what she thinks is going to happen.
She exists in the New York Times headline framing where, like, was killed exists, but no one is killed.
Death Star was blown up.
Yes, no one did it. Yes.
I do also want to shout out that Luthen hates the idea of bringing somebody else in. The person that she wants to bring in is Tay Kolma, the banker, who will end up betraying them. So this is just one more example of how Luthen is always correct.
Who I knew immediately from the show Coupling, which was Stephen Moffat's British sitcom before he became, like, a sci-fi drama writer. And he played the kind of, like, man slut on that show. The guy who was, like, had a different girl every night. So this was a weird transition for me.
I made a talking to joke last week, and then we're back in Doctor Who again. It just keeps happening. That's Doctor 2 is when I talk about Doctor Who 2 minutes at a time.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Doctor 2? Is that?
Doctor 2. Yeah. All right.
It's getting sweatier.
And that's how I like it. Just like a sauna at a JCC, I like it sweaty.
I have to say also, that car she arrives in is, like, so sick.
Yeah.
It's like, that was the moment I was like, I fucking love science fiction. I'm, like, vibrating when I see that car because I'm just like, yep, this is what I watch sci-fi for.
Last week I wasn't able to find the car, but this week
you found
found it. It's a JPP 192 limo speeder.
They call them limos in space?
Yeah, also known as a Senate limo. So I think, like, every senator
standard
gets
issue?
Standard issue limo.
At this point, Luthen decides it's time to wrap up the conversation. He gives her an artifact to take with her for her husband, which is clearly he's giving it to her so she has an excuse to come back.
Yeah, exactly. And also so she doesn't have to waste money buying something today.
I mean, I don't think. Well, he needs the money,
but she doesn't have it.
Yeah.
That's what she just said.
And he says if she doesn't like it, she can come right back. I like the quote here. It's a daring choice, but I trust you'll have the courage to turn back if it should be a bit much. Which I just think he's so good at I mean, it's for audience bullshit, not really. It doesn't need to do it for.
He could have said he could have just directly spoken to her back there, but I like the subtext of, like, we're gonna finish off this conversation back out in the main room.
And I'm gonna do a fun linguistic thing where it can mean two different things.
But also, I think he's probably cognizant of, like, we can't be back there too long.
Yes.
You know, like, the driver will be suspicious if we're back here whispering. Like, he's only going to be able to look at coins for so long.
The other thing that happens during this is Clea distracts the driver by being like, I know you're poor, just let me show you some coins over here. And I have to say, if Clea tried to distract me by flirting with me lightly, yeah, any job I don't care if I'm safety inspector on a nuclear reactor, it would work.
We will not bonk anybody on this podcast, but that's a threat, not a promise. As Luthen walks out with her, he gives it to Clea to go wrap up. I was sort of expecting her to, like, put a little message in the wrapping paper. And then we see Mon leave the antiquity store, gets back into her, what would you say, the JP1?
JPP192 space. You just call it a limo. Just
oh
limo.
wow, that's it. What a fun name.
Yeah, limo speeder.
Yeah, the limo leaves. We cut back very quickly back to Luthen, just looking a real sourpuss.
Yeah,
he's turned around. He's making eye contact with Clay. He can make his real face as he walks away.
His Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde attitude in this scene is great. I forgot to shout out when he goes behind in the back room, the camera pans behind Mon Mothma and he's smiling, and then as he passes behind her, that when we see him again, his smile is completely gone and he's totally changed.
Yeah,
which is very fun.
Yeah, and we watch Mon in her limo as she flies away, and I don't know. I guess we need to get the dye workwear guy on because I don't really know. She has her jacket folded over and then unclasps it, but there's not really a clasp.
Maybe it has
a
space magnets.
Yeah, I think it has space
there,
magnets in it. 'Cause I'm this looks cool. It's I don't know how this is physically happening. I assume it's a magnet. Fucking magnets, how do they work?
But it's all weighing on her so much that she needs to
breathe.
Air out. And I think it also tells us her meeting with Luthen is not casual at all. It's not something that she feels even really comfortable
and it's
doing.
a bit of a costume. She's in a corset when she's with him.
Mm-hmm. When she goes to meet Luthen, she has to put a mask on.
Yeah.
But when she meets with Luthen, he's taking his mask off, and that's kind of scary for her of who is this man that I have, partnered up with.
But yeah, speaking of foraging for so long, we're back on Aldhani.
Yeah, we return to Aldhani and find Skeen tying up some sticks as Lieutenant Gorn, played by Sewell Remy, arrives at the camp riding an Imperial speeder bike like what we see in Return of the Jedi. And Cinta explains to Andor that he's their contact inside the base. And then she commands him like a dog to stay in the tent, which I thought was very funny.
Now, is this Gorn's first appearance in this scene here?
It is. And it's a really great example of how the show is using Star Wars iconography of we hear the speeder bike before we see him. And that's a sound that we only associate with villains. But then he shows up. Andor's very nervous of him, but then we're twisting that of oh no, this guy's a spy for us, though.
And I do have to bring up the possibility that his name is a Star Trek reference. I assume it's not, but Kirk famously fights the Gorn, which is, a big green rubber suited monster that he slowly karate chops.
Maybe at some point he was going to be a big green guy, and then they remembered, the Empire has no big green guys.
Yes.
Genuinely, this is hard in science fiction. I wrote on a Star Trek game, and at one point I made up an alien name. By the way, you guys have been doing a great job naming our background weirdos. I had to come up with an alien name once, and I was so proud of myself. I came up with Gronk. And got an immediate call from my boss being you don't watch football, do you?
Oh.
I feel the go-to is pick a character from Shakespeare. I feel that would be my go-to.
Oh. And then what would you do to it?
I think a lot of them are just especially
you would just be this alien's name is Iago?
Yeah.
You could do that.
Yeah. I think that tracks.
Yeah,
it's
all
all
right.
Public domain.
I feel
Shakespeare can't sue you.
In the original series for Star Trek, that would definitely work.
Yeah.
Definitely. Be this alien's name is just Captain Prospero.
I also feel if you go to a lot of old biblical names.
Yeah.
Caiaphas.
Caiaphas. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So just Jewish people.
Yeah.
Aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, we don't talk about Caiaphas that much. He's a Shonda for the Goyim, as they say. Okay, back to...
So Gorn is furious that Clem is being added to their crew with no input from any of them. Vel reminds him that they need the extra hands and they have enough backup equipment for Clem, except for a pair of gloves and a belt, which Gorn is going to have to leave behind for Clem, which is funny for me to imagine, Gorn walking back, holding his pants up from this trip of his. And then Gorn says, even if that's all true, he should have been consulted before bringing Clem on board, and to that, Vel agrees. And then Vel asks Gorn about this increase in patrols on Stone Canyon, and he explains that they're mapping out the old trails for an Imperial engineer from Coruscant, and soon they're going to move into the lowlands. And he's got a midnight inspection tonight, so they need to make their final preparations for the plan really quickly.
Midnight inspection sounds very saucy.
It does.
That was my favorite paperback novel when I was a kid, Midnight Inspection.
What do you feel? How do you feel about like this Aldhani crew? Do you have any thoughts about like this crew, the situation that they're in, the circumstances they're dealing with?
Well, I hope I'm not pounding a one-note drum. That's a terrible metaphor. Drums, I guess, make many notes. I don't know. But have you guys talked about the Stalin angle on all this?
We touched on it.
Last episode, I committed to ordering the book about it, and
Yes.
I can see where people can track along as they listen along. Right now, it is currently in North Las Vegas on its way to beautiful Los Angeles, California.
This is young Stalin, the book Gilroy read that helped inspire this arc.
This book is specifically about the heist.
Nice.
So by the time we get to the actual heist, I will be well read.
Do you have any knowledge of the heist or of young, sexy Stalin's history to share?
Not really.
Okay.
And you guys don't need to go through it with me if you already have. I just think it's incredibly cool that, like, you can feel the verisimilitude in this show. Like, you can feel the thinking about things that, frankly, even in non-science fiction shows, we don't do a good job thinking about as TV writers, right?
Yeah.
We just kind of hand wave it. You'll watch a show like The Penguin or something, and like crime doesn't operate the way crime operates, money doesn't operate the way money operates. It's just sort of whatever's convenient. And it's funny because like you don't think it matters, but then you see a show where it's all been thought through, especially in a science fiction world, and all of a sudden it's like that. Like the ultimate metaphor for the show is the set designer and how he would fill all the drawers with like screws and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's like this is the writing equivalent of filling the drawers with screws. Thinking about the fact that rebels need money and where do they get it from? And oh, actually, that's a really interesting arc is like what makes the show great.
But I also think as a writer who has a tendency to go too deep on that background stuff, it can also drive you insane and destroy any creative project you're making. Because if you start getting too caught up in like, well, that doesn't make sense logically because there's like, that's an easy way to just like take a little thread on a sweater and then just destroy the entire thing. It's a very hard thing to balance.
And, you know, if you listen to Tony Gilroy, the amount of writing this man cops to throwing out makes me feel like the laziest writer in the world. Like, he'll just be like, yeah, we threw that whole episode out because somebody told me a thing and I realized it didn't work. And it's just like, you what? Like, I am so lazy. I cannot imagine doing that. Mm-hmm. Not only am I lazy, I'm attached to my work.
The man doesn't kill his darlings. He genocides his darlings.
It's got a big Pol Pot pit of darlings.
Yes.
And Gorn coming in here and like being so furious is showing us how disorganized this mission is. You know, like these people barely trust each other. And Gorn really doesn't trust Clem, and Clem makes it clear like that those feelings are mutual.
What's that a narrative setup like? It's like a treasure of the Sierra Madre, right? Mm-hmm. We're all about to do this job and we just barely are keeping it together, you know?
Yeah, last week we talked about Sorcerer as like another one of like dangerous mission with people you don't trust and all of your lives are in the air.
Which again that's A New Hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like but usually it's not as grimy and as desperate as this is.
But I think like as much the thing we said Andor, it's like it is recontextualizing things that were already in the text of like a ragtag group of a old dude, Han Solo.
It's following it to its natural conclusion, but in A New Hope, they had enough gloves for everybody.
Yes.
Like, Luke did not show up and they were like, we have a jacket for you, but we don't have pants, so can you wear your regular jeans?
Oh, it's so tactile. That's such a nice detail.
I mean, I don't know if this might not make sense, but like it's interesting to think of the story of Star Wars is the middle school retelling of history. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that makes sense. That like, do you imagine the original Star Wars are as complicated as Andor? We're just getting the like middle school George Washington had wooden teeth version.
Yes.
There's like an interesting idea of like you could rewrite the entire original trilogy as a George R. R. Martin novel with the level of difficulty, but still have the same beats happen. We're just seeing them reduced to how do you show this in 10 seconds?
Well,
does that make sense?
Yeah, which is another difference between like movies and TV.
Yeah.
You know, like a movie needs to be kind of that top level, big emotional gestures, whereas the TV is where you can get the more nuanced storytelling.
Well, I think another metaphor for this is like I do a lot of improv, and you'll find a lot of people like halfway through a scene. You know, one of the things we talk about is like don't invent. right? And what that means is like you'll get halfway into a scene, somebody will panic and they'll be like, oh, look, it's the president. But your scene like wasn't about that at all, right?
Yeah.
And it's like one of the things that your teachers try to drive home over and over, the philosophy of the thing, is like you already have everything you need. It was set up in the first 10 seconds of the scene. And one of the things that's so satisfying about good writing is like the recognition of like, oh, they put the trains on the tracks and they already have everything they need. They're not reaching here or there for random character conflict or plot twists. They're just digging in on the idea of like, okay, well, what would it mean to be an unprepared group of bank robbers? What if you didn't have gloves?
Yeah.
Right? That's simple and good and springs from everything that's already been set up.
I think the difference between like a good TV show and a bad TV show is that a bad TV show uses this as a means of slowing down the plot and like adding barriers and sort of doing this, versus this show takes those conflicts and just mines them for content. I hate using the word content, but like it uses like, what is the actual interesting thing of them being stuck in the woods?
I think that's actually the proper use of the word content. That's
Yeah.
not
Yes,
the
that's
gross
true.
use.
Yes, that's true. But like there's using it, I would say like making your protagonist not a white guy, if only for cynical purposes, gives you so much material to work with because you've moved the character to a different relationship to the world around them. By like saying like, oh, yes, they're going to be in the woods, figuring it out. Like, well, what does it mean to be in the woods? Like, actually getting to those deep things is a positive to your storytelling, not a detraction from your storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
If you take things seriously, anything can be interesting as long as you're serious and understanding what you're interrogating within that scene. Like these scenes don't need to cost $150 million to be interesting. It's 5 people in the woods.
But it did.
Yeah.
Well, this isn't where they're spending the $150 million. I don't think
It's in the third episode of this arc, right?
Putting the fake antlers on those sheep was really expensive. The sheep are prima donnas. They have a high quote. We end this scene with Skeen sitting at the fire pit and watching everybody walk away. And as we've been going through this arc, the question I've been kind of like asking myself is Skeen from the beginning planning to fuck them all over and run away with the money? And before I thought no, this moment here is where he seems the most suspicious to me. Yeah. That he seems so apart from the rest of the crew and looking at them very askance and seeing how dysfunctional this crew is.
There is a sort of midpoint answer, though, right?
Yeah.
Of like, he wasn't when he showed up on this rock of a planet.
Yeah.
But now he's been here 6 months scraping for things to eat.
Yeah.
And he's just like, oh, everything's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, ideology's bullshit, philosophy's bullshit. It's just who has what. And like, if I see my opportunity, I'm going to take it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a reflection of who Cassian is too. Which comes into play.
Cassian thinks he's that guy
Mm-hmm.
and is going to find out, I'm not quite that guy.
Yeah.
It's also funny that like Nemec is not in this scene.
He's in the background.
But he's not there for the logistics. He's there for ideological reasons.
When the family starts fighting, Nemec gets small
Yes.
and doesn't get involved in the fights. He's too busy putting his diorama together. This little diorama.
Me IRL.
Any final thoughts on Aldhani? We see them for a second at the end of this episode, but this is our bulk of them too.
I mean, if it weren't for how good the prison arc was, this would have been my favorite arc. Like, I fully expected to walk away from this and be like, well, the rest of the show was good, but that bank robbery arc, you know? And the fact that we do that and then exceed that in the very next arc is like, I think this may be one of the greatest television shows ever made. I mean, like, it is one of, but I mean, like, if you had it in the conversation for best, you wouldn't be crazy.
Yeah,
you'd be like
absolutely.
The Sopranos, Andor, and The Wire. You wouldn't be a crazy person.
The only thing I think holding it back is the fact that it's 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Whereas those other shows, by virtue of being 4, 5, 6 seasons long, are able to go so much deeper, especially by the end of their runs, and become so much more ambitious. Whereas this show, the flip side of it existing in the 15 minutes where we could get this show made, it also existed in the 15 minutes where it could only be made for 2 seasons.
Yeah, well, I think is that narratively, and I guess we're gonna get really in the weeds of like when you say that like Andor's the best TV show, some part of me goes like, but I would not use Andor as an example if somebody asked like, what's a really well-made TV show?
Right.
I would not say watch Andor.
Yeah.
Like The Sopranos or Mad Men are the traditional, like, you have your characters that, you know, have different things happen and they react to it differently, but you sort of have your core characters and you're learning how to experience things with these characters. This is like, Andor really is, as much as this has become like an annoying trend, is a, how many hours is it? Like 24-hour movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like it is this like extended one narrative. It's not like we're going to hang out with Cassie and the crew in different places.
But it's also 4 movies.
Yes.
I mean, that is one thing I would really say in its defense compared to every other prestige drama trying to do this. I think it hit on a formula where I'm like, why don't more of these shows do this, you know?
TV shows can do this, but like I think there's like this, this has become such an obsessive form of modern media to like do the like extended movie. And I think this is the show that actually gets that correct.
They found the formula to combine episodic television and serialized television.
By the way, sorry, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, you know, with these 3 episode arcs, like, you get the beginning and middle and an end of a movie, but you also get the episodic feel of, like, this is the episode where Andor meets the team. Yeah. And then the next episode is them prepping for the heist, and then the next episode is the heist. And you get, like, episodic television still, slightly.
By the way, I do agree with you that, like, if you asked me for, like, a perfect television show, I'm probably picking something more functional. Like, as a guy who loves television, I would be more drawn to like an example with a series engine that's got a little more brutalism in its efficiency. But if we're just like, hey, all of the things that we've called TV shows are TV, now rank what is the best art, right? And we're throwing it all in a bucket. Whew, man, it's up there.
Yeah.
Well, and also, like, as writers, we spend so much time thinking about, like, how do you make TV and how do you make stuff within an IP as well? And the fact that this show not only... I think it's safe to say, like, we were all maybe skeptical when they first announced this show was going to exist. And then for it to go from that to how good it is also is raising it in our estimation. That we see the craft that's going into this.
Because it is like the Penguin, right? It is like, hey, the secondary character in a movie that everybody thought was like kind of good, you know? Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, really? That's who we're focusing on for a television show? It feels like throwing shit at the wall.
Yeah.
Not to minimize my own hireability for any show, but like, I think I brought it up before, but there's an interesting parallel between Andor and the Alien Earth show. Did you happen to watch it?
Alien Earth. Oh, this was the
new
Noah Hawley one.
Yes,
yeah, I didn't get to see that.
So to me, that there's something similar there, which is like, we're going to take a really like bubble, we're going to go outside the bubble of the main universe, but like, what are the implications of the same view of the show in different parts of the world? And it has some like interesting stuff to it, but it just falls apart at the end, where it did not have a coherent story to tell from beginning to end. It understands what's interesting about aliens and like the world of Alien, but it doesn't really understand how to create an actual grand story out of it. And I think that's sort of where so much of IP ends up. It's like, you have an interesting take, you understand clearly what is beloved about this thing, but it's missing the actual, why are you telling this story?
Yeah.
Alien Earth is really interested in being like an alien take on Peter Pan is like the big thing that they keep kind of like referencing
that's
and emulating.
What Skeleton Crew is trying to be.
Yeah, exactly.
That's Treasure Island. Sorry, not Peter Pan.
Yeah. And I think that it's in conflict with the grounded, realistic take on Alien they're also trying to do. And it also means that the characters are there's less depth to the characters. Yeah. Like, none of the characters in Alien Earth have anywhere near the depth that we see in Andor.
No,
I like the show more than you did.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's Noah Hawley. Please hire me. There's plenty of stuff that I love, that I really did enjoy about the show, but I think it's an interesting parallel because it's like, these are movies from similar times that are, I guess, now also both owned by Disney.
Yep. That
are trying to not just do Alien again, but see like what are the ingredients here that we can remix into a different kind of cake. And it's you have success with Andor and mixed results with other shows.
I think I would say, like, I would never call Noah Hawley a first draft writer. Like, I have a lot of respect for him. I do think he's a gut first writer. He makes things that are messy and interesting, and from his point of view. And I think by comparison, Gilroy is just like a draft 250 writer. Like, he's just one of those guys that's like, hey man, it's just hours at the keyboard, right?
He's a journeyman writer. Like, he spent most of his time writing screenplays and doing revisions and punch-ups and all of that kind of stuff. So I think it shows.
He's just like a samurai sword maker, just doing layer after layer to just get the sword a little bit sharper and just spending hours in there.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of samurai swords.
Yeah, so we go back. We are back on Coruscant in the home of the Mothma. What is the Mothmas?
They don't share a last name,
right.
interesting enough. Her name is Mon Mothma, and her husband's name is Perrin Firtha. So,
it's a not a Chandrilian custom to. I guess that's probably true for a lot of like royal marriages that you keep the of Windsor.
Although I guess their daughter is Leda Mothma, so the family name maybe runs through.
They're woke.
They're woke.
It's matrilineal. It's woke. So yeah, we enter into Mon's apartment, which I don't have to describe this, but I'm like, I was at the Salt Lake City airport like last year, and they had a few just like stores, and I'm like, this is just hipster Mormon. It's just like everything is just sort of like creamy white, like gold inlay. Like I'm just like, this is like the modern aesthetic. It's like a little fancier of a third wave coffee shop, but just like very spare, very white. That's what just their house reminds me of. It's just like a very fancy, like if there was like a little neon sign that says like live your best life, it would not completely be out of aesthetic.
By the way, I think the last names probably do tell us something about their dynamic, right? Like, this seems to me to be a guy who is living off the largesse of his wife's sort of family reputation and fortune. And it's like, if you were a dude who married a Lady Kennedy and then you had a kid, like that kid's last name is still going to be Kennedy, you know?
Yeah, he's the Perrin, her husband, is the stay-at-home dad, it seems like.
Yeah, stay at the party, dad.
But then also I think to the show constantly sort of using George Lucas's, motif from Japanese films, especially Kurosawa. This is another place we noticed it with Dedra's office. There's a bunch of other bonsai in Mon's home, which I think the show is about characters who are fastidiously obsessed with the details. And I think Mon and Dedra both match that sort of thing. Like they are just very manicured and making sure that everything is correctly done.
Yeah.
And to the point that it's obsessive.
But Dedra has one bonsai tree in her office. Yes. And whereas Mon Mothma has like 18 bonsai tree all through her house. That shows the wealth and opulence that she gets to live in.
It's so interesting that you say that, because I did have the question in my head when I started really thinking about this subject, knowing this was coming up, of like, is Mon autistic? And there's not a lot else in her that would make me think she is, except the fact that like, it's so weird to come from the place that she comes from and take your stated value system seriously. Like most of the people who come from where Mon comes from understand there's the kayfabe and then there's the reality underneath it. But I don't think she understands that, and I think that has led her to this point.
I think she did understand the ideology, and then somewhere a pebble fell in, and that pebble it's like a washing machine. That pebble has just been like spinning around and just like slowly breaking up all of the plastic inside, and it's like slowly sort of making her go insane. She just can't let go of the awareness that she gained somewhere.
It's a beautiful metaphor. I think that's also like we all started, I assume, as liberals, right? Like I was not raised in a radical leftist family. I think that's a really good description of how it happens to all of us, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to let it go and get out there, but you can't find. Yeah,
it's the they live glasses. Like once you put them on, you're tortured by it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we are in their beautiful apartment, and then we find, as you said, Perrin Firtha, played by Alistair McKenzie, setting up a dinner table with his fun little space iPad,
wearing his like space kimono too.
Yeah, in case the metaphor was not clear. Also, he has like a not a top knot, but how do you describe his haircut? Like it feels very Japanese,
douchey.
It's very like Japanese, for sure. It looks like a samurai. I think in Japanese, it's called a chonmage.
Thank you.
Is the Japanese top knot.
But we all know if we see that guy in the club with that haircut, we're like, that's not a good dude.
Yeah, definitely not.
Like he probably appropriated it from some indigenous planet that the Empire conquered.
But he bought his kimono in Japan, like during his year-long study abroad. He bought an authentic kimono. And wore it every day.
It reminds me of Alex's Read the Tweet corner. Okay. But hey, nice man bun. Haha, it fucking sucks, you hipster asshole. The man turns around and reveals he's a samurai from the Tokugawa Shogunate. Oh, fuck.
But I think aesthetically what all of this is telling us is that he's a libertine, right?
Mm-hmm.
He is a pleasure-seeking
a bon
person.
vivant, a bon vivant.
Yes. And I think that this show, one of the reasons that I focus on the like, well, is Mon Mothma a lib question, is like, I think this show is setting up these archetypes for how many different kinds of people respond to fascism.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this is a response that you see all over the place, which is the person who goes like, well, it doesn't matter. You shouldn't think about it because you can't control it. And so to him, his wife is this like awful woke scold who just like reads TikTok and gets herself upset. And he's just like, why don't you relax and enjoy life a little? Mm-hmm. We're rich. Like we're friends with powerful people. We should just be enjoying ourselves.
Mm-hmm. A lot of details about the relationship are in a new novel that came out called Reign of the Empire, The Mask of Fear, which is like a Mon Mothma trilogy that they're starting. This is the first of the books that's come out. It was written during season 1 of Andor, but before season 2 was finished. And obviously the title is coming from Nemik's manifesto. So we might want to, I didn't read too much of this backstory because I thought maybe we'll want to read it for the podcast. Would be an interesting thing to put on the docket.
I'm adding it to the book list.
There is a good video essay when you guys cover Nemik's manifesto. It's called The Misunderstood Radical Politics of Andor. And this guy is clearly making like a slightly like an argument that sort of downplays the sort of more radical leftist angles on the show. But he does make the interesting point that like Nemik is positioned between like all of these different potentially radical philosophies that were radical at different points in history. Mm-hmm. So in part, he's making, a Marxist argument. In part, he's making an anarchist argument. But also a lot of what he's saying is rooted in like classical liberalism, which I think you guys will cover when you get to him. Mm-hmm. Or that manifesto.
Yeah, we talked about this a couple of weeks with a different John, but
you brought on another John?
I know, I'm sorry. Yes. We're not exclusive.
But we read an article that was similarly critiquing the leftist politics of Andor and what it is. And I think that is a subset of like, not to rehash that episode, but does truly leftist, is the structure of TV show inherently anti-leftist? Can those like, or do you have to be in a Brechtian situation where you are like alienating the audience? And I think there's the boundaries, I think of the boundaries of what you can do in traditional formatting. It's a very leftist show. If you're going to argue that the show is not leftist, you're talking about breaking the sort of agreed upon structures of television.
Well, they made one key mistake. They made it with money.
Yes. You're taking a Saw Gerrera view of televisions. None of you are pure.
But I think Perrin really speaks to the way that capitalism or empire can feel inevitable. And that what conservatism or fascism offers you is a way to not feel guilty about it. The Chapo boys point this one out a lot, right? But it can often feel like the choice is, well, all the same stuff, but feel good about it. Or all the same stuff, but the aesthetic choice of being real guilty and Charlie Brown about it.
Yes.
And that's not a very good, appealing choice.
That's the American experience. You were in the belly of the beast. You were still existing in the world where climate change, all these things are happening. They're already happening to third world countries. You don't get to decide, like, you're not stopping these things from happening. You're just stopping them from happening to you.
And I think he thinks he knows Mon is a hypocrite. He thinks he knows, like, well, you live in the seat of capital. You wouldn't give all this up. Mm-hmm. But he's wrong.
Yeah.
He's Star Wars hedonism bodge.
Hedonism is the word I was looking for, though. That's great.
Pour chocolate on me, John B.
John C.
Though, yeah, there's a very small moment which I want to take up, which is that, let me go back to my notes. Basically, to set the scene and to set the table, Perrin is setting the table for an upcoming event. Mon asks what it's for. He reminds her that they're having dinner with the governor of Hannah City. Mm-hmm. It says Hannah, but I guess there's Hannah City on Chandrilla.
The capital city.
The capital city. Implies that there's other cities on Chandrilla.
It does.
Yeah.
Score.
Mon completely forgot that it was tonight. Perrin reminds her that it's on her calendar. He sent the iCal reminder and did not forget. They planned it a month ago.
Really captures the petty sniping that happens in a long-term marriage of just like, I promise you we talked about this.
Yes. And then she goes, well, yeah, sorry, I do remember. I remember you wearing me down.
Yeah.
I didn't remember the details. And he goes, Perrin snipes back of, I don't think anybody could wear you down.
Yeah.
Mon asks if he enjoys this dynamic, and he responds that he's just happy to host some friends. She checks the list of attendees, and I want to make sure we discuss these.
Yes.
Some incredible fucking name.
And some incredible faces. I'll show you the pictures of them as you
Ars Dangor, Sluey Moore, and the Vizier's from the Vizier's private chambers. What can I say?
This is Ars.
Oh, we know what they look like.
Yeah, he is. You can see him in Return of the Jedi.
Oh, fuck yeah.
He's a little yellow old man with what I can only describe as a penis-shaped hat.
Background weirdos. You
And
gotta love it. I
are-
definitely had like that dude's trading card, I'm sure.
And this is Sly Umbra, who is a bald woman with a kind of high-collared gown.
This is Sluey Moore. Sly Moore.
Yeah, Sly Moore.
Oh, okay.
That's what they say, Sly Moore.
Yes.
She is a psychic who can like bend people's minds, and she's like an advisor to the Emperor. She's basically like a Bene Gesserit witch, but in Star Wars.
Yeah,
just another example of
Star
George
Wars
stealing.
Yeah, full Star Wars ass name too. Like, what's this guy's deal? Oh, he's greedy? Yeah, he's Greedo. Like, this chick, she's very sly.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
She's Sly Moore.
I imagine, again, we like to imagine what Pablo Hidalgo is doing at all moments. Where it's like, Tony Gilroy is like, okay, give me 2 names from the Star Wars universe, and then they're like,
who hates Mon Mothma?
Yes, and they're like, there was a name that they gave that was like 10% stupider than Ars Dongo, and there was a name that we gave that was like 10% less stupid, and they agreed somewhere on Ars Dongo.
Yeah.
Like Pablo definitely pitched like Slobuthi the zombie, and he's like, no, absolutely not. He's like, Frank Grime? No, yeah, like, okay, Ars Dango. We can agree on Ars Dango.
And it's so funny that, like, Mon is like, dude, these people hate me. These are, like, my least favorite people at work, and you invited them all over for dinner. And she's like, if they're going to be here, just make sure I'm not sitting next to them. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. You're on the boring side of the table. These are the fun ones.
Yes.
And it's like, these people don't look fun at all.
I mean, they get down.
Sly Moore, you think, is partying?
Yes.
You think she's a good hang?
That's a really good point, though. It's just Pablo meeting the exact thing that he was asked for.
Yeah.
So he's giving these names, and it's like, yeah, she does not look like a chick who parties. Like, she looks dangerous and psychic and weird. And he's like, yeah, she's so fun, though. Yeah, like, you get a couple drinks in her, she is hilarious.
She does party tricks where she forces people to take all their clothes off, and it's really hilarious.
I mean, I think increasingly, like, my dream guest for the show is not the Gilroys. I think it is Pablo Hidalgo.
We'll see if we can make that
happen. I'm going to manifest that. But, like, I think, like, making Andor Star Wars is, to me, that makes it the most fascinating thing. That's not it's not just a space thing. It is firmly in Star Wars. And I think because
it's not just Mad Libs.
Yeah.
You know, like, we joke that, like, Tony writes insert planet name here and they just, like, plug it in. But the show is very much in conversation with this extended universe of characters.
I think you guys need to meld both sides, though. Like, you need, like, someone who's Pablo Hidalgo and, like, Che Guevara. I don't know what that guest is, but I'll think about it.
So, yeah, back at the place setting. Also, just a small thing. The bowls remind me of, is it Kitsuki? Yes, kintsugi. It's the practice of fixing a broken bowl with gold.
Oh, sure.
And the bowls have like a very similar like broken thing and gold on top. Just another little Japanese weeb thing. But yeah, you're saying she's said, all these people are the people behind destroying my efforts. And he goes, well, maybe give them a nice dinner. They wouldn't be so mean.
What an asshole.
What an asshole. And but to your point, she says, like, oh, we're going to get the fun side of the table. And then she says, oh, fun are they? And then she suggests they bring in some Gorman friends, and we'll see how much fun they have. Because his, quote, fun friends cut off their shipping lanes yesterday.
Yeah.
And do you know how many will starve? We can laugh about it over the third course.
Great little Easter egg of what's to come.
Is this our first reference to Gorman?
Yeah.
And just speaking to the idea that Mon does have some blind spots, she is quite sharp with this servant girl, right?
Oh, yeah, get out of here. Yeah.
And absent-mindedly sharp. The way that, it tells you, oh, this woman has grown up with wealth and privilege her entire life, does not think twice about giving a sharp order to a servant. Maybe later would be like, oh, I was probably rude there.
Yeah.
But that's in her. It is natural.
It's also now in her first instinct of, I don't want anybody hear me say anything.
Oh, it's very understandable too.
Yeah.
But it's also a moment of like, Cassian would not give a servant an order like that, even if he was like, fuck, they're going to overhear. You know, like that comes from the background she has had.
Yeah, the whole back and forth between them. Have either of you seen the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead movie adaptation?
Yes.
Of them playing like the tennis match, of them like doing the
Yeah.
like there's like the two of them have a game of like how meanly can they insult each other in a fancy way. This like they've honed this down to a skill.
Yeah, they're very good at being mean to
Yes.
each other. They have decades of experience doing this.
Yeah, and I'm sure they married. We know that like they married very young.
Yeah, they married as kids. Yeah, exactly.
And she ends the scene with some incredible steel in her, right? She says, you make me pay attention, I will, and you won't be happy. And it's like very intimidating. Like this woman may come from luxury, but I would be scared shitless if she said that to me. Doesn't seem to work on her husband, though.
No, I think this scene is in contrast to her kind of confrontation with Luthen.
Yeah.
That she was on the back foot asking for permission, and here she's pushing Perrin to like cancel these plans and can't get him to do it.
Yeah.
But so like she can win in the argument with Luthen, but she can't win in the argument at home, even though the stakes of the one with Luthen are so much higher.
Yeah, I think there's truly an argument nobody has it worse than Mon this whole show. It's a tough positions to be in.
Yeah, she at least has the nicest bed to sleep in. For now.
Yeah.
Until she gets to Yavin 4 and gets a horrible haircut.
Which, boy, I feel terrible that, like, we didn't get to see that. Like, you talk about the 5-season version of the show. I want to see Mon tossing and turning on the first hard bed she's ever slept on in her life. Somebody tossing her a bag of MRE rations, you know?
She the first night she'd be like, that was the greatest sleep I've ever had. I feel so unburdened. And then like goes back the second night and it's like, wait, this sucks. It would take her a day to be like, oh, right, this is what it actually is.
It would take her months. Like, it's a huge adjustment.
Yeah.
We don't have any champagne here.
Yeah.
Do you guys want my hot Mon take? Because this is my other...
Hot Mon.
We've gone...
Take.
By the way, I can save it for...
No, let's get it now.
Okay, so like
We'll have you back on again, you'll have more hot Mon takes.
So my thing with Mon is I feel so sad by the way EU continuity has sort of tied down what seems to me to be the natural dramatic end point of her character. So like, I feel like Mon should die in poverty when this rebellion is over. And not to get too far ahead of ourselves, because I know we're not there yet, but like, there are basically historically two kinds of people that fund revolutions. There are rich people of a sort of mixed status, like maybe you're landed gentry, but like you're not the brother that's going to inherit, or like you're an American circa the Revolutionary War, and it's like, you're rich, but you'll never really be considered a member of the aristocracy. And these people do really well. They find their spot, their angle, and they kind of come out of the conflict smelling like a rose, right? Mm-hmm. Then there are the true believers, and it does not end well for these guys, right? They spend all of their money. They don't necessarily come out on top, you know, and it's not fun to be poor after the revolution is over. And I just think that's such an interesting thing. You know, like George Washington complained throughout, like later in his life, that his finances were a mess because of all the time he spent fighting a war and then being president. And I think he's maybe more sort of like a middle of those two figures, somebody who became a true believer as things went on. But Mon, like, weirdly, she suffers more than anyone else in the series, and I still want to see her suffer even more for the choices that she's made. I feel like in the version of this show where it extends past the revolution, she should end up like Ulysses Grant or something. Mm-hmm. Like, she should be drunk and living in a shack.
That's like how much does she really
want to see Mon go through ego death?
I mean, really, because it's, I don't know, like, can you imagine being that on top and being like, well, I'll spend this all on the people that want to see me dead, right? Like, that's such an interesting thing, and I think the show doesn't even have enough time to truly grapple with the consequences of that, which, like, yes, would be the sleepless night in Yavin, would be the poverty after the war, you know?
I think because they are sort of mirrors of each other. If Luthen lived to see the Death Star blown up, he's happy for about 10 seconds. And then immediately back to being miserable.
Yeah.
Those are the opposites of his default is miserable. He can't get to happy. Wherever you are, you're still you. I don't think she'll ever get that breaking point because I think she always sort of have that, the contradictions in her mind.
Yeah.
Unless you get to a weird, a Scientology-esque death, ego death where she just can be reconstructed as somebody else.
But that's my little hot take.
Yeah,
I imagined that ending for her in my head, and then someone was like, well, in the EU, she's like president of the universe. But I was like, oh, that sucks a little.
But she should be a Nixonian, paranoid president. There's nothing that says that, I do
think that's true, that she should have a John Adams, a fall from grace, you were a great war hero, but man, wartime consigliere does not make a great peacetime president.
And you allowed the First Order to rise up and destroy Coruscant or whatever.
You're obsessed with your enemy lists.
How fast does the First Order have? That's so fast.
It's very fast.
Now I'm just imagining Space Kissinger, which is another.
Maybe that's what's his name? Ars Dangor. Yeah, he has kind of a Space Kissinger vibe to him.
I'm just imagining just recordings of Mon just being unintelligible slurs.
God,
yeah.
Stop humping my leg.
Holderman, what is up with these? Beep. Yeah,
and it's Nemoidians is what's getting beeped. Yeah. She said Nemes. Yeah, some alien slur.
You can never trust those damn Nemoidians. Except for you. Sorry, Henry.
Calling Akbar a squid head.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sir, I don't think you're allowed to say that.
We don't say that anymore, man.
Only Mon Calamari can use that word about themselves. The fact that they're called fucking Mon Calamari is so fucking funny. I love Star Wars.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the scene ends with Perrin being a little, ooh, I heard there's a rumor you bought me a present. She says, it's going back as soon as you leave, which I like. And then Perrin yells after her, and the great light goes, must everything be so boring and sad?
What a fancy little lad.
What a fancy lad.
So it's I'm if you ended that on her with her put down, be awesome drama, it'd be really good. She sells it like crazy. She does not get him for even a second.
No.
He is totally unbothered.
Yeah, he doesn't give a shit.
They've had this argument 3,000 times before.
Yeah. He really reminds me of a Will Forte character in this moment. He's just so pathetic, and you cannot knock him down. He will just keep digging down and down and down and just be so pathetic.
That's a perfect comp.
Yeah. With that, Mon storms out, and we return to Aldhani, and we see Akti Amag, the Valley of Caves. But what is this? A base for ants? No, it's a miniature diorama.
They ran out of budget, and it's all mini models now.
It's a little diorama of the Alkenzi base, the sacred valley that the Empire 13 years ago built an air base on top of and discovered a series of hidden caves that they realized they can use. So they proclaimed all the territory for the Emperor and dammed up the sacred river for the base. And so
I just really like the idea of Cassian getting all upset like Ben Stiller in what's that movie? Zoolander,
yeah.
and just being like, I can't steal from this, throwing the model on the ground. It's
too
small.
How is this gonna? These are not nearly enough credits in here.
I can't go through that door. Andor does kind of have a blue steel look to him. He can do the blue steel.
He's pretty man.
Yes.
Which honestly, it's you talked about in that first episode, or your many episodes on that first episode, what a good talker he is. And he is a good talker, but he's lucky he weren't born ugly. The fact that he's pretty probably helps a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And it helps Andor too, as we see throughout the show. The fact that every woman is like, hey, who is this guy? I shouldn't trust you, and yet I do.
Yeah.
Always seems to work out for him. But we don't get to see what they plan to use this base for, because that is the end of our 7 minutes today.
What a cliffhanger.
What a cliffhanger indeed. Jon, any final thoughts on this episode, on this arc, anything we didn't get to touch on today?
How did I do on time? Am I one of your longer?
We're great. We're at an hour 25 right now.
Perfect.
So
All
that's
right.
great.
Do you want the record? Is that
I did a little. Like, on the one hand, it's very blank check. On the one hand, I was like, I don't want to inconvenience these guys. On the other hand, if I had already inconvenienced you, I want to know I did it the most.
There's an internal Andorks conflict between me and Rusteen of how long we want the episodes to go.
I think
Are you the David Sims in this?
per minute of content we are covering, we are vastly beating blank check in terms of how long we are going. So I think we need to not make individual episodes longer. We spend an hour and a half on 7 minutes of show.
You guys are talking about some real shit.
Yeah.
It takes a minute to unpack.
They do 3 hours on a 2.5 hour long movie.
That's fair.
You know?
At scale,
We're doing great.
Scale, yeah.
Exactly. That's my point. We're doing great on being extremely long.
Yes, that's fair.
Yeah, all you have to do is solve society, capitalism, revolution, acting, storytelling, writing, all in a single podcast. I can see why it would take.
There's something profoundly funny to me of someone being like, what are you listening to? I'm like, oh, they're doing the second 7 minutes of episode 8. It's 3 hours and 36 minutes long.
Yeah.
It would be very funny.
Yes. No one wants to actually listen to 3 hours and 36 minutes of it, but it'd be very funny. It's just funny as a concept.
We can do like when an album has like a secret track and they put like 2 hours of like
negative space.
And then if you get all the way to the end, there's a little bonus for you.
Look, it's also that thing, guys, of like, no good movie is ever too long, you know? Or no good movie is ever long enough.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah. Exactly. Well, Jon, thank you so much for being here on definitely one of our longest episodes.
It might be longest.
Well, I'm happy to have joined. I thought this was a lovely conversation.
Yes, we'd love to have you back as soon as possible.
Yeah, is there any particular episode or moment or character that you'd like to come back? Do you want to be like our Mon Mothma expert and come
would
back for
love
more?
to track Mon throughout this. I think she's so interesting. It does mean, missing, I think, the show's highest high moments. But probably everyone you have is like, man, I want to be on No Way Out, I would love to do all the quiet wash parlor room scenes, the kind of things that George Bernard Shaw would have written of like 2 wives sniping at each other about the upcoming bill to pass the Senate.
We'll make that happen for you, Jon.
Yes, thanks so much for coming.
Anything you want to plug? Where can people find you?
Oh, so I have a backyard improv show that happens the first Sunday of every month out here in Los Angeles, specifically Valley Village. We're sort of semi-secret. So if you follow me at on Instagram, Callan, or find any member of Fancy through our Instagram.
So you're the Luthen of the secret improv group.
Yes, it's true. Yeah,
you have to let people in the circle.
You've got to tune into to mix our metaphors. You got to tune into the signal. You can't stop the signal.
Pirate radio.
Yeah. But yeah, if people want to check that out, I'd love to come see you. There's also all kinds of little weird improv shows I do around town. You can check out Star Trek Resurgence for the last game I wrote on. Or if you want to see me teaching game writing, you can check UCLA, where I teach game writing and narrative design classes.
Cool. We'll put links to that in the show notes for sure.
So that's it. Bye, dorks.
See you later, dorks.